our justice process is not speedy, and our political process can be. What is the likelihood that you think we could have a complete trial and conviction of the former president prior to the election?
I think the last case that was indicted, the January 6th case with the former president as the single defendant, that case is designed to be tried before the election. Now, whether or not it'll happen, that's the way the case was constructed. I mean, because logically, you would have tried that case and charged also the co-conspirators, the unindicted co-conspirators. So those people would have been, it would have been the United States versus Donald Trump, John Eastman, all the other people who were in there. But I think the determination was made by the Justice Department to go against only the former president, strip down the case, and those folks will be indicted later on, I predict. But go for that for now, just against him. I think there's a better than 50% chance that that case will actually go to trial and be decided before the election. But I think that will be at the expense of the case in Manhattan, the case that will be brought in Georgia, and probably at the expense of the documents case, in Florida as well. I think this will be the first case, and I think the possibility exists, given Judge Chutkan, who's responsible for the matter in Washington. She's got a reputation as being a pretty hard-nosed judge, and I think she'll try to keep this case, on schedule. The government's going to be pushing to get this case to trial. And to be frank, I think that the Justice Department could have done a better job.
In what way?
By focusing more on those who constructed January the 6th, while at the same time focusing on the foot soldiers, on January 6th. Done a great job with regard to, over 1,000 indictments, I guess, with regard to the people who are actually in the building. And I think the initial thought was, well, we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. And I think that cost the Justice Department time. I think the appointment of the special counsel really sped up the Justice Department process. But I would have hoped that the Justice Department focus would have been on the architects of January the 6th a little sooner than it was. I think the January 6th committee was really the spur to the Justice Department to move in the way that it has been, in the recent past.
You asserted earlier this summer that if the former president is convicted of a crime and then elected president, that you expect the Senate of the United States to impeach him and remove him from office. What gives you the reason to believe that the Senate has the will or wisdom to do that at this point, given everything we've seen?
I keep waiting for sanity, logic.
Why?
To raise its wonderful head. I mean, think about this. Let's just assume this. Case goes to trial. Donald Trump is convicted. Donald Trump is elected nevertheless. I mean, like, what? I'm not sure that you can pardon yourself. There's a real legal question as to whether or not you can pardon yourself. So let's assume that he can't. And he actually takes office. But there's also nothing in the Constitution that says that you can't serve if you're a convicted felon. There's nothing that says you can't serve if you're in prison. I mean, these are all mind-boggling kinds of things. I mean, the founding fathers did not anticipate this kind of thing. And it would seem to me that if he, in fact, were convicted felon, head of the United States government, that, again, some degree of sanity, some degree of logic would say that that's an impediment to a really well-functioning executive branch, obviously a well-functioning president, and that Congress would use its powers to, to remove him. I keep saying that these indictments, potential convictions, are going to have an impact ultimately on his political strength. And all the pollsters who I say that to say, you don't get it, Eric. You don't get it. Trust me. This is just going to solidify his position within the party. He will be the nominee. So we'll see. We'll see.